Awesome. Well, thank you so much, everyone, coming tonight and being very interested in the cybersecurity awareness panel session. First of all, I would like to pay my respects and honour the Aboriginal elders and Torres Strait Islanders, those past, present and future. And I would also like to acknowledge that we're on two countries today, being the Birrabah and the Warramai country. So I'd like to acknowledge that and thank you so much for having us here. Before we do get started and I introduce you to our amazing panellists, I would like to introduce you all to CEO Steve Waite, our CEO, at the Business Centre. So Steve, come on down and say hi.
Thanks, Sarah. And look, I won't talk long, but just enough to say the Business Centre's been around for 36 years. I haven't been at the Business Centre for 36 years. Old enough to have done that though, but Business Centre began, I was looking back when the Business Centre began, it was 1986. I think one of the key things that happened in that year was Chernobyl. So that's how long we've been around. I want to be clear that we're an organisation, as I've understood it and as I've respected, goes about its work quietly. We're not crowing, we're a not-for-profit organisation, and a group of business people in 1986 thought there needs to be a little bit more done for business than is being done, and we've been doing that ever since. That's why the organisation was formed. And we've gone about it quietly, but this is one area I think that we're going to keep talking to people about and not be as quiet, because I think from what I understand and a lot of the information that Sarah has brought to us and that we now appreciate through this program is that we're not talking about cybercrime enough. If someone breaks into your house and robs you, it's a crime and it's not your fault, and you need to let people know about it. And the same applies for this, and it's only become more problematic during COVID with a shift to digital and online sales and a shift to us using these things to conduct businesses. I was speaking to a couple of folk before we began tonight. I mean, I'm signing documents and I'm conducting financial transactions on my device, and this is happening all the time. And I think what tonight is about, and we've got some wonderful guest speakers to give us a sense of that, and we've got the benefit of Sarah working with us for the last 12 months in this project, just trying to demystify it a little, you know, with the greatest respect to the experts we have from the tech field and the IT industry. Sometimes it can be a bit alienating, some of the language and the technical aspects of this, but what we've found, and through the benefit of having Sarah working with us, is we found a way, I think, to make it a little bit more easy to understand and to bring experts such as this to rest our minds a little. There are ways to navigate through this, but if anything I can say, and I'd ask you to share this with others, is that we have to talk about it. We have to talk about it if it happens to us. It shouldn't be something that we should keep under the carpet. It's something that we need to talk about, because the more we do that, the better we're able to protect ourselves by letting someone know what sort of scam or what sort of incident you were subject to and sharing it with others. So I'm going to leave you to enjoy the rest of the evening and ask you to please share the word that we're here to help in this area going forward. And for those of you that don't know about the Business Centre, we get a lot of the work that we do through word of mouth, so give some word of mouth on what we're doing tonight, and we can also help you in other parts of your business as well with many of our advisors. Enjoy the evening, enjoy all of the refreshments, and let's keep talking about it. Let's not keep this a quiet secret anymore. And I'll pass back to Sarah. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you so much for travelling up here today. Troy and Alana have both travelled up from the Newcastle region, and Hector, you live here, you're a lucky person, so hasn't had to travel too far. I'm going to read from this only because I don't want to get it wrong, and I'm not reading it all because it's too long, okay? So I do invite you all to check out their profiles on our website and also their LinkedIn pages as well. So tonight we have Troy Filisevic from Emergence Insurance, and you are an underwriting agency 100% focusing on providing insurance solutions for cyber risks. And after talking to you on several occasions, a wealth of knowledge, like a lot. So I'm not going to go into it, but if you want to know anything, and I don't want to waste time, we'll get on to you. Then we have Dr. Alana Maurushat from Western Sydney University. I've known you for a few years now, and again, a wealth of knowledge. I will just say that you are Professor of Cybersecurity and Behaviour at Western Sydney Uni, and you also have a joint position in the School of Computers, Data and Mathematical Sciences and in the School of Social Sciences. You also are part of research groups and very knowledgeable on, let's see where I put it, sorry, fraud and ransomware, cyber reputation risk management, tracking money laundering through Bitcoin blenders, and distributed extreme edge computing for microclustered satellites, and also ethical hacking. But that's not even going deep into it, that's just at the surface. And then we have Hector Lucenti from the Beach Geek, who is a local to this area. And you are the founder of the Beach Geek, and you are an information tech guru that has lifted your own business from the ground in little than 4 years. Extremely knowledgeable, extremely passionate, and just wants to do good and help small business. So that's our intros, very short and sweet, but we'll move on. So this evening we're going to cut it into 4 segments. First is we're going to look about what have each panellist noticed in current cybersecurity threat trends and, what's trending. What's the awareness of it? Segment 2, how will business protect their brand and reputation when it comes to cybersecurity? And 3, responding to a breach, reporting procedures and how to recover. The other thing I want to add on here is that the latest federal budget has also delivered funding for cybersecurity relief in small businesses with a turnover of less than 50 million. So we might be able to add into that and touch into that. And fourthly, we're going to walk away with some key messages from each panellist of what you can do today to protect yourself and your customers, clients, reputation and brand. So I'm going to flick to our first segment. Troy, I'll start with you. Cybersecurity threat trends for SMEs, what have you seen? What are the biggest risks and what's the awareness?
So the trends that we're seeing is that ransomware and business email compromise or people hacking into inboxes is a big thing, and also social engineering. Literally, I was driving around Smith Lake from Newcastle this afternoon, and one of my team rang. We had a client that paid 3 invoices to a total of $70,000, and when the 4th invoice came through for the CEO to approve, started asking questions, and they found out that the previous 3 that they paid were all fraudulent. And it went, so there's millions of examples around this, and we'll talk about it more, but they're the big 3 that we're seeing. And we ensure businesses, whether you're micro SME to large corporates, and the 3 things that people need to be aware of is ransomware, business email compromise, and social engineering or financial fraud.
Alana, who's responsible for all this, for protecting businesses? Is it the business owner themselves or is it someone else?
Oh, it's a mixture of things. Are you responsible for your car? Well, yes, you are, but you trust your mechanic to help you fix it. You rely on that expertise. You have insurance for your car to protect you when things go wrong because not everything is predictable, and cyber is no different. Now, before we leave, though, I have to plug my center. I operate a free cybersecurity aid center, the first of its kind in the world, at Western Sydney University, only for small business. And I partner with this man and 3 other firms. And if I'd known Hector, I would have partnered with him too. Okay?
You're still in time.
So, I just want to let you know that there's a lot of support out there, and so I'm going to keep plugging this center afterwards. Business email compromise, ransomware, all the things he deals with. But what I deal with as well, because I consult to companies as well, we're seeing a spike in just regular scams. So not only ransomware and business email compromise, scamming has got out of control too. And so we might not call that cybersecurity, but it's definitely cybercrime. And many of the techniques overlap with some of the cybersecurity things. So I think it's in the same category.
Apologise for that. I should have added that in. I should know better since I've been learning about it. Hector, give us a story.
Yeah, me and my stories, eh? So, we had this client calls in and says, oh, I think I've been hacked, or I was about to be hacked. So he gets this phone call. So he's installed NBN right through Telstra. And 2 weeks later, he gets a call from a guy who says he's from Telstra NBN. Says there's a problem with the account and there's a problem with his modem and he needs to look at it. And he goes, okay, I guess so. So he gets to go to a website and he gets remote access. And this guy goes in and then locks his computer. But he does it in a way that when the computer reboots, it's locked. So my client on the phone goes, what's going on? So the guy said, I don't know. It seems like your computer might have a virus. And he goes, right. Well, how are you going to fix that? It's like, well, I can't fix it, but I can transfer you to our department who's going to fix it. Now that's going to cost you money because, this is extra. I was just calling for the NBN. So he goes, well, okay. So the call gets transferred. Off we go. They fix the stuff, get him access, and then he says it's about $3,000 to pay him. So he goes, what? And he goes, well, yeah, this is what we charge. And then he says, well, I don't have that kind of money. I said, well, I'm sure you have a credit card. And he goes, well, no. And he goes, that's okay. You can pay in iTunes gift cards. And he goes, what? And he goes, yeah, well, what am I going to get a gift card from? So earlier in the conversation, his address has been disclosed. So this guy over there goes, but hang on a second, you have a Woolworths just round the corner from this street where you live. So my client's going, how does he know all this? Right, so this is later when I'm talking to him. He goes, how does he know all this? And that's very simple. There's Google Maps. This is not hard. I can map any street in the world, and you tell me your street, I could tell you what's nearby. So he played up and he goes, no, I'm gonna close this call now. And the guy said, well, if you don't pay, I'm gonna send the police. He gets scared, and that's when he calls us. And we go in, we clean the computer out, and he was extremely frustrated, but he was also extremely, he had this sense of guilt that he didn't know any better.
So what do you do? What would you have recommended? What are you doing now with that client?
Well, we've set up his computer, set up his antivirus, and all the things you can do that are not bulletproof. But basically, we gave him the tools for him to recognize when these calls come, how to identify. We also encourage him to know that, hey, we live in a country where no one's going to send the police to your house because you haven't paid a bill. That's not how it works. So don't be afraid to shut down the phone call, grab the phone book and actually call back to your company and speak to someone. Don't accept numbers from anyone, you know what I mean? And sort of give him the little skills on how to deal with that, because that's what we are finding. We're finding that before all this internet and globalization thing, the borders were closed. So if you had scammers, they had to come from overseas and pickpocket here. But now they don't have to, because the internet is open, there's no borders. So they can come from wherever, and anyone can have a phone, anyone can have a good accent, anyone can put a show, and it's how do you respond to those social engineering attacks, which is what we call them. That's the jargon for it. Yeah.
Which we'll look at and talk about in a couple of sessions. Does that scare anybody? Or is it just kind of go, oh, I've heard about it. Yes.
It's getting harder and harder to spot the actual scams, like particularly bank ones, but ones from big organisations where they have to, unsubscribe here and call us on this number, and the actual name on the email address seems to align. So it is definitely getting harder to spot.
Any responses?
Yeah, there's lots of controls that have nothing to do with computers to stop these things. And in fact, they're the most effective controls of all. Pick up the phone and call your contact and confirm they've sent the invoice and confirm the whatever. But it slows you down. And in a world where your boss is like, you need to produce X amount of invoices, like that realization that we need to slow burn now, like step away and think a bit more before you pay, is there. So we're actually back now. Things can't be automated anymore. We actually seriously need to pick up the phone and make sure we're dealing with the right person, right? So I don't know if you've seen the New South Wales Crime Stoppers scheme. Just hang up. If NBN calls you and you don't think it's NBN, hang up. Google number, phone NBN. Ask, did you just call me? No. And then report it. So just hang up.
A lot of this stuff's just common sense. And it's a gut feel thing. So if you're reading an email that's coming through and one, you don't expect it, or two, it's just not sitting right with you, ignore it. Because if it is a legitimate email, what's going to happen? They'll come back to you. Yes?
They are getting smarter and smarter though, because we received one which I think Hector actually assisted us with, because I freaked out when I've got malware on my computer for sure. And what that actually done somehow is that infiltrated a previous thread of email that had to and from replies, and that sent through saying, here's the link you need to click on open this particular spreadsheet. We opened it and it was not what should be there.
Yep.
But because I've had correspondence with this person, seen the before and all the back and forth conversations of the email thread, somehow they've managed to pick that up.
Which is absolutely true. And there's trends, and this is data globally around when people hack into your system, they just don't immediately go in there and do an attack. They sit there and they watch. And the average time is between 180 days and 220 days before they do something. So for instance, that example that I spoke about this afternoon when I got a phone call, they're sitting in there and they doctored all the invoices that they'd been doing business with. So they knew. So why would they doctor a Telstra invoice when you're with Optus? So they sit in there and they do some reconnaissance, that they're watching what's going on. And then when they slip in, it's just like normal. And then what they end up doing was the CEO thought that he was emailing and communicating with the accounts payable person, but it was actually the hacker that had slipped themselves in the middle, going back, oh yes, Andrew, let's go and do this. Okay, no problem. And it wasn't until he started asking questions and finding that the invoices weren't the invoice numbers weren't matching up, because people just, if it looks legitimate, okay, they'll go and pay it. They won't go and look at numbers. So it is getting harder to spot, but.
And so sometimes the answer is not on the technology. So we had a client about 6 years ago, something very similar. So CFO, sales manager, and someone else had gone to Hong Kong to close a deal. CFO was in the Philippines and I was meeting them in Hong Kong. As he gets on the plane to go to Philippines, which is, I think is whatever hours it is, he jumps in the plane and immediately half an hour after that, accounts gets an email saying, deal is closed, yay, I need you to wire 70,000 to the UK, here are the bank account numbers. So accounts goes, sweet, because account knew this was going to happen and sends the wiring out for 70 grand. Then 3 hours later, also she copies CEO and sales manager who also on a plane. And she goes, congratulations guys, I just sent the money. They step off the plane before the CFO and go, what? The deal hasn't happened yet. So they go back and then, surprise, it was a scam, right? So they called and said, oh, this happened, what do we do now? And, well, look, the problem here is your process to wire $70,000 is not right. How is it that your accounts person doesn't have a voice or verbal confirmation from one of you who was sitting at this deal before she wires 70 grand or 5 grand or $200 or whatever it is? So the answer there is not in the technology, it's just change your processes and make sure there's gatekeepers so you can at least mitigate the risk.
So looking at strategies to put in place for current employees and current future employees, putting in strategies in place so when you onboard, is that what you're saying basically? Put strategies in place, this is what you need to do and this is what we need to adhere to. Just give them a call.
Review your processes, do your training, educate your staff.
Okay, cool. Oh yes.
Can I just say something on that? Being probably a little older than most people in the room, that's how we used to do it. Okay, so it's going back
to basics.
to those checks and balances. There would be no way you would pay an account unless you had the invoice, the statement, the sign-off of this, the sign-off of that. But you're right, people just don't want to spend the time now. They think because it comes over the internet or whatever, oh, it must be right, because that's how we do business. But it's something we've really got to work
Just be warned, though, that the newest trend, that the one I'm working on right now with a company that's not Troy's, is they've changed the phone details so it looks like it's an email generated internally because someone's email compromised internal from the system. Correspondence from previous transactions are in the email. Everything looks legit. You're not picking that up, okay?
But you are if you write next door and you can say, is this what we need to do?
Yeah.
Or is there a protocol?
That's true.
Never used to happen before.
But there's a lot of companies now that are completely remote, right? COVID's happened.
That's
So
right.
there's no picking up next door, right? So you have to figure out what the protocol is for popping your head around there, controls, right? But what I'm saying is that often what's happening now is you're seeing a new phone number inserted. By the way, my phone number has changed. And they've set up a new line within the company too. Like it's just getting so complicated.
All right, I'll move on, only because I'm mindful of time and I knew that we needed longer than an hour, but anyway, stepping stones. So on that, it's brand protection is what I would like to talk about next. So,
But wait, there's a way of preventing, though.
Oh, go for it,
to get
please.
into your system in the first place. So let's talk about that, because that's actually important. MFA, multi-factor authentication. You're going to have the world's worst day of your life setting it up for a day to your business, and it's going to prevent anywhere from 80 to 90% of that stuff from happening. MFA.
Is that boring stuff I have to do?
Yep, every day, set it up.
Alana, can you explain that a little bit more? I know there's a few people in the room that I've spoken to about it.
So, like when you type your password in, like let's say almost all banks do that now if you're doing something online, and then you'll get a text message with the code that you put in. That's it. And did you know Facebook, Instagram, any social media can be set up for MFA as well? So how many of you have friends that constantly are putting up, I got hacked again, ignore my message, my friend request? Again, MFA prevents it all. MFA.
And just on that, MFA to the next level. So you probably have come across not just the text message to your phone, but the authenticator where you get that random number and you got to pull in. So that just gives you an extra layer, because the trend we have seen is mobile number hacking. So what happens is I'll get in with the right information and I'll get Alana's mobile number and I'll port it out to another carrier. What happens is in Alana's phone, it goes SOS and she goes, oh, something must be wrong with the tower. It's not. I've now got her phone number in my SIM card with another carrier in my phone. So now I go to her portals and I want to reset password. So MFA kicks in and go, I'm going to send you an SMS. Sure, I'm reading. So I get the code. Now I change the passwords. But if you go authenticator, you need that specific QR code that only the first time user can generate. So that gives you an extra layer. So if you are thinking MFA, by all means, yes. SMS starts.
You have to do it.
You have to do it.
A lot of the software that we deal with, MYOB, Zero, whatever the other thing is, they all have that authenticator, and you've got to have your phone next to you to be able to do that.
Yep.
But the problem is there's a lot of small businesses, and I talk about small business, who are still running off an old version of they got from someone who's still on their desktop, right? And yeah, it's true. It's true, yes. And so they're the people who have got to be sold not only on the authentication, but also upgrade your software so you can have the ability to have this.
So it's an education process, and it doesn't matter whether you're at the sandwich shop around the corner or you're at Commonwealth Bank in Pitt Street, Sydney. It's the same principles. And people run old software because they think it's too expensive, when in fact it is cheap as chips. And just from a practical perspective, if we look at like businesses, and if one has multi-factor authentication and one doesn't, the one that doesn't, the premium for that business will be at least 50% higher than the company that's implemented. And it literally costs you, you can do it yourself, and it costs you nothing, just a couple of hours of your time to do it. And it will greatly reduce the risk of your business.
No, I just want you to keep going. I knew that this is how it would run. It's great. You just bounce off one another. It's better that we all interact and this is how it runs. I can have a run sheet, but yes.
So with the authentication, it's not bulletproof, but it's a lot harder.
It's a lot.
It's just an extra level of security. So
Georgia, sorry, can we get a mic?
Yes.
So, yeah.
I
sorry.
mean, so just today, I work with a company called IFW, and he just got back from the Philippines. We took down 2 organized criminal syndicates last week, okay? We have informants embedded in cyber criminal syndicates all over the world, okay? We work with the FBI, Europol, Interpol, you name it, okay? They're always going to get in if they want to get in. But here's the thing. Think of your house, okay? The person who gets robbed is the person who has no security. Does it mean that because you've locked your doors and you've got a fence and other things that you're not going to get broken into? Yeah, of course you still can, right? But the reality is that people fundamentally all over the world are actually pretty lazy. So guess what? They're always going to break into the person where it's the easiest to break into. So don't make it easy for them.
People aren't specifically targeted, they're just looking for the open door.
yeah, look, I come from South America, right? So I come from Venezuela. That's where I was born. I came here when I was 23. So 23 of my life I lived in this country, right? And I remember my first car, you know, was a piece of shit, right? But it was my first car. So my dad said, hey, you should get one of those things to lock your steering wheel. And I just said, Dad, who's going to steal this piece of shit? It doesn't matter, mate. I said, what happens is they just walk the streets looking for who doesn't have it. And if yours is the one that doesn't have it, it's easier to get yours than the other 30 cars, isn't it? I suppose you're right. So I put 2 things. So, you know what I mean? And this is always my mindset. You know, it doesn't matter. I know it's not bulletproof. The more padlocks I have, you now have to think twice and go, why would I go through all this trouble when that fella's got the door open right there? So that's what I guess that's the consensus. You can have one single MFA, authenticator MFA, still better than no MFA. So if your password is Mangoes 101, you need to think that you need to get a better password. And if you use Mangoes 101 for everything you do, then you really need to have a hard look and think about it. Because now you're that person that doesn't have the lock in the steering wheel. And you might have nothing, or you think you have nothing, but it's what Troy's saying. They come in and they sit and they watch. And you might not have something today, but if your business was small here and in 1 year grows over here, now you do have something here. And if they've been watching, now it's when it's worth attacking that account. Not here, we'll just wait it out.
A person whose life is devoted to doing that.
100%.
A person? Are you crazy?
Sweatshirts, yes.
So the organized criminal syndicate we took down has 3 floors in a tech building. 3 floors, 452 employees. This is organized crime, not Mickey Mouseville. Like, it's all automated. It's not even a person. They have the same AI systems that I have working, developing tech at a university for companies. They have those systems.
They have. We had a client who got hacked by ransomware, and there was no backup. So this client wasn't our client. It became our client right there, but they had no backups. And we said, well, we can't really decrypt the information. You have no backups. Well, we're going to pay. You're going to pay. Well, we advise that you don't pay because this is like dealing with terrorists. Nothing gives you the guarantee that when you get the money, you're going to get the decryption key. Doesn't matter, Hector, we want to pay. Okay,
Troy?
Off we go, right?
Mate,
So we go, no, listen to this. We go and have to pay. We have to go into the dark web, right? So we jump into the dark web and we find this chat room and they just go, good evening, how may I help you? It's like, look, our thing got coded, here's the key. Yeah, sure, 1 second, it'll be this many Bitcoins. And we were like, yeah, look, my client says that's a bit too expensive. Let me speak to my manager. And then he comes back, just like a customer support, right? And he goes, yeah, look, we can give you an offer for today, 70% off. And we went from a $4,600 bill to like a $1,200 bill. We moved the Bitcoins, they got paid, they gave us the thing. They even say, look, thank you very much. If it happens again, now you know where you come, save the links. If it happens, like, but this is, they don't call it organized for nothing. This is why it's organized. Because it's the mirror of what you're trying to do to success. They're doing the same to success in what they do.
So it's a really good business plan that they've got.
100%.
Troy,
Yeah.
do we pay the ransomware or not?
Yeah, it's quite interesting. But before I go talk about it, we deal with ransomware every second day. But just to kind of roll that out, if you put yourself in the shoes of these criminals, it's a return on investment for those guys. So they hack in and they get a list of emails and they just flick it out, and they know that it's a numbers game. So if they flick it to 1,000 people, there's a small percentage of those are going to click on it. So they're the ones that they're going to focus on, and away they go. And then you've got help desks, etc., that are all multilingual. So it doesn't matter, because this isn't kept by boundaries. Like, this is a global thing. So there's cyber criminal organisations that have multilingual call centres. So if someone from Venezuela calls, you've got someone that can speak so it's an organised thing, and they're not saying I'm going to focus on you. It's out there. There is specific attacks on organisations, but this is a blanket thing. And if you just happen to be caught, then you've got issues. Now, on ransomware. So we deal with ransomware every second day. We pay it, we negotiate on behalf of our clients, and we also pull the plug out and ignore them and tell them to get stuffed. On the odd occasion, now, if you've got good backups, and this just goes back to us as we run our own business. If you've got good cyber hygiene, you tuck your shirt in, you pull your socks up. That is, you've got antivirus, you've got multi-factor authentication, you back up regularly. There's this concept of air gapping where you back up, but then you take it out of the network so it can't get infiltrated, etc. Like, these are all pretty simple things to do, and they're not expensive. If you do that, and you go into your office in the morning and you turn on your computer and you're greeted with a beautiful sign that says, we've got control of your data, you're not getting it back until you pay us a ransom. And if we have a break, I might get some ransom notes up for you to have a look at. You can ignore that, and you can get organisations like Hector's to come in. They'll clean your system up, restore from backup, and away you go. The issue is when the ransomware gets into backups, or you don't have adequate backups, and then the pressure is on the business then to make a decision. Go, well, ethically, I don't want to pay the ransom, but economically, I have to pay the ransom, otherwise my business is gone. And
not only gone, like sometimes we've done the case analysis. I'm sure you've done these, where recreating, because I've had clients go, don't worry, it's just documents. Yeah, like 12,000. So who's going to type that? Oh, we didn't think about that. It's like, well, that's a lot of human hours. Now, the ransom is only $4,000, but in human hours, you're talking about 15, 30 grand. So, just pay your thing and move on and get your backups.
3 years later, I'm still typing documents we didn't know were out there.
See?
We're still typing documents we didn't know were out there that people were using in our system.
See?
Yeah, they come and say, can you print this out? And we go, oh, we haven't got that. Let's type that one in.
Yeah.
3 years later.
Exactly.
But and ransomware has moved. In the last few years, ransomware used to be, they come in, they lock your files, and they say, give us a chunk of change. Mm-hmm. Now, what they do is they get in and they take the data out of your system, so I've got it, and they hold you to, it's extortion, saying, if you don't pay me within 72 hours, I'm releasing your data. And we'll talk about reputation later on, and this is where your business can be really impacted.
Go for it now, Troy.
But so from a ransomware perspective, there's a lot of talk about it, saying you shouldn't pay it, etc. And you shouldn't, because every time we pay a ransom, particularly now that what's going on in the Ukraine, and Russia's trying to get money to buy more weapons, etc., etc. Every time we pay a ransom, we do a sanctions check, which you can find out where that Bitcoin wallet is attached to, etc. So we won't pay anything until we do a sanction check on that. Now, Hector talked about negotiating with hackers. Absolutely, we do that every time. So we did one. It was a Western Australian company. They had a cyber policy with us for $1 million worth of limit. Their ransomware demand was $1 million US, so it was like 1.6 million. They didn't even have enough insurance just to pay the ransom, let alone rectification of the business and getting their business back up and running again. So we got in, we negotiated with the hacker, we got that down to 350 grand. We paid the Bitcoins, and then they gave us the decryption key. We decrypted the data, moved the data to a safe haven, sorted out their system, moved the data back into the business, and they were back up and running again. We had one, it was a club, a leagues club in southeast Queensland. I could go on all night, but just this one. And it kind of talks to them being in the system and knowing about your business before anything happens. So it was just at the start of COVID, businesses shutting down. They got in there, they asked for a ransom for $250,000. And we got in there, had a look at it, and we started negotiating with the hacker and said, look, we're a small business, we can't afford $250,000. They came back and they said, we know what the business is, we know the turnover of the business, and we know that they've got cyber insurance, pay the ransom. We said, okay. And we paid the ransom. No. Sorry?
The data they're taking, where is it?
Oh, so they'll keep it.
No. Physically, where it's been taken from? Is it like a OneDrive storage or a private?
Wherever.
So it could be your big black server in the corner of the office. It could be your data that's stored in the cloud. It does not matter where your data is physically held.
Stuff sitting on OneDrive is not necessarily safe at all.
No.
Stuff sitting anywhere is not really safe at all. That's why the backups are important. And that's why using certain services is important. So for example, OneDrive, Dropbox have what I call rollover function. So we've had clients that have everything encrypted on that cloud and demand ransom, and we go, yeah, whatever, and we roll back to 1 hour back, and then we get a data, and then we back up that up, find the threat, eliminate it, and off we go.
It actually really annoys me that Microsoft produces products that don't come with all the securities on default, and you buy the product thinking they're on, and you actually have to turn them on. Well, it'll turn the audit logs on, and you can turn MFA on in OneDrive as well. Guess what? All of these products already have MFA, but you have to turn them on.
It's actually now being turned on by default.
Is it finally? Because
so
it's like, honestly, I feel that they should be responsible for putting this stuff on when they ship it, you know? Like.
Can you create a ticket for that, please, Hector?
That's what's already created. Yeah, I'm already ahead of you. So we, Adam, when was it? It was when we did that MFA and the update came through. So all 365, any business 365 and Azure AD is now all turned on by default. You can't turn it off.
Yeah. Now remember, here's a date. I want you to remember October 23rd, 2023. Anyone want to guess why that's an important date? Microsoft 365 no longer supports a single product. It's insecure. Nothing on it is secure unless you upgrade to the next product. I've got a whole list of products that you can go and search with the app coming up, and you can type in your product, and it'll tell you if it patches or not. Patching basically means like all your windows are open in your house and your doors, and you're inviting criminals in. And it's shocking how many systems aren't patched anymore, and they don't have a legal duty to do it.
Who here's got an Apple telephone? When you get pinged that there's a patch available, do you go in there straight away and say download the patch, or do you ignore it?
Like a software update.
A software upgrade. Or who goes, this is such an inconvenience, I'm going to ignore it. And every time you're reminded, every 24 hours, you go ignore, ignore, ignore. Yep. Thank you for your honesty.
I do that.
Yeah. You should know better.
For one reason.
I've just got a question from the audience before you two get into a squabble. Up the back there.
No, I just want to add some information about the backup for the 2FA. So in case you set up the 2FA on your phone and there are some of the apps that doesn't have the backup included, And then if you lost access to the app, you lost access to anything. So you cannot have access to your emails, you cannot access your your internet banking, so you are completely in the middle of the trouble, to be honest. So what you have to do, you have to make sure the app that you are using for the multi-factor authenticator has a backup. The other option that you can do is to have a secondary phone that you are not carrying on everywhere, just for the multi-factor authenticator. So I just want to add that as an important thing. Because if the multi-factor authenticator is so important, we have to have a backup of that as well.
Great, thank you. Back to the patching. So much information tonight. But back to the patching. Who wants to go?
No, I was going to say the only reason I don't do that straight away is because some software updates have screwed my things. So I usually give it 2 weeks. Then I know that it's already not repatched, and then straight away I don't wait.
So essentially what they're doing, and the reason why they're sending out patches or software upgrades to you, is that the Apple software engineers, etc., are starting to see either vulnerabilities in the system or people starting to get in. So they're creating like fences and locking windows, and then they're spitting that out to all of us to go, okay, well, there's a vulnerability on your iPhone, patch it up, lock it up. So that's the reason why we get patches all the time.
Why doesn't it have it on Samsung then?
I don't know.
It probably does.
Oh, well, again, I've mapped all that out. I have an app coming out. You can just type in your stuff and it tells you everything you need to know. It'll hit the market in September. It's for free. It's to help you with all the basic things that you're drowning in.
Yeah, I'll get that off you, Alana, and we'll chuck it on. And
The website launches next Friday. We've partnered with some great companies. The government has given us close to $1 million to set up our center to help you.
Nice.
Okay? And the best thing about the center is that there's going to be 200 students going through it, training through the center, and then they'll be going, after to industry to learn small business needs before they jump into large business needs.
I'm curious, is one of those partners F-Shore?
My partners are Gridware, Emergence Insurance, DC Encompass, and Sokolv. Now, that said, we've signed about 37 different MOUs with companies around the world, and we're about to sign a big one to set the center up in another location in another part of the world. So we've set up the center, everything open source. It's been a real labor of bloody love because the small business materials out there globally are terrible for cybersecurity. Now, the ACSC has also invested quite a lot of money in the materials that they've upgraded recently, and you should really go and have a look at
They're on the tables as well.
on the tables. Okay.
Yep,
Like
we've got them.
they really are spending a lot of time and effort to get those things up and running. But just it's endless, and I do feel for you because I got scammed setting the center's website up. Setting it because I want to set it up not for profit, and there's a spoof site for the New South Wales government for incorporated associations right now. But the good thing is I've actually solved the crime and sent it to the police. But I mean, I got scammed setting up the incorporated association. Like, it's not easy is what I'm telling you.
So on that, Alana, how do we respond and where is support for these breaches?
Well, you don't fire someone, first of all. A lot of
Thank you.
people really get mad, so they fire someone, and that's probably not the right response. Talking about it is good so that people understand that, cybercrime is avoidable to a certain extent, but it can happen to anyone, right? It's not something... I kind of think of it recently a little bit like COVID, right? When COVID was first out, and if you got it, right, like you were crazy afraid of it because you didn't know what was coming and you thought something terrible could come, and something terrible could have happened, okay? I had 3 friends who died from COVID. And if you got it, there was like a stigma that attached, like, well, what did I do to get it, right? But now, I mean, everybody's got it now. And because we're talking about it and it's become normalized, like it's almost at the point where cybersecurity is becoming normalized, and I think we can start to have really good conversations now, because it's not something to be embarrassed about, right? It's just like, here's what I need to do to help.
We've had 2 incidences. So 18 months ago, no, probably a little bit longer, we put on a new admin assistant, and of course, lockdown, She didn't have the onboarding process or be in the office. So we basically interviewed her on Zoom. She started. We posted the mobile phone and the laptop to her, and then a few months later, I'm in a Zoom meeting, and my phone rings, and I have a look, and it's a text message from Hannah saying, I bought those vouchers that you asked for, and I literally froze, like the colour just drained out of my face. So I said to the person I was on the Zoom call, so I've got to go. I'll give you a call later. Anyway. Someone had emailed Hannah, impersonating me, saying, look, I need you to go down to Woolworths and get $1,000 worth of these Steam vouchers. Now, I had no idea what a Steam voucher is, but if you've got young kids that are gamers, Steam is like a game thing that you can buy stuff within a game. And then I'm thinking, okay, well, I can't really go crook on Hannah. I said, okay. So it was a learning. So we got it sorted out, and we did $1,000, but it gave us something to talk about as a team. And basically, you kind of set some rules. And I basically said to everyone, I will not ask you to go and get $1,000 worth of things. I will not get you to do anything that I wouldn't do myself. Like I would do that myself. And then not even a month ago, for some reason, I come back after lunch and I try to log in, and my login wouldn't work. My password on my Microsoft 365 had been hacked, been brute forced, and they'd mimicked. Well, they got my password, and they changed it, so I couldn't even log in to my own mailbox, and that was like 3 weeks ago.
Oh, the microphone's coming for you.
Thank you. So speaking passwords, I was today years old when I found out you can actually use the space character in your password. Literally only found that out 2 weeks ago. But can you guys speak to self-generated or user-generated passwords versus system-generated passwords? And also storing passwords on devices, because I'm fairly lazy, and like I'm sure most people are, where I just go, yep, I want my system to remember it. But obviously that leaves us open to risk as well.
Well, I can't tell you what. So because this has been a problem, we came up with this strategy, right? And so this is the way we see it. All your passwords should be complex, right? And then you should, if you think of a triangle, you should think of the things that are more critical at the tip of your triangle. These are the things that are going to have your most complex password and should not be shared around. So for example, if your email is critical, that should be one password you should not repeat for anything else. And then your bank sits on another tip of the triangle, and it's probably one password you don't want to share. And then you start coming down to other things. For example, if you do clothing shopping and online shopping, maybe those passwords doesn't have to be that lengthy or that complex, and maybe you can share that same password if it's strong enough with another clothing store, but don't go and share it with other stuff. So then you end up with a basket of passwords, and where do you put them? Well, definitely don't put them in a Word document. Definitely don't put them in a notepad.
Don't name the document passwords.
Yeah, correct, right? And there are applications out there, so we work with LastPass and 1Password, which are extremely great applications, and everything is encrypted, and you can have access to your password and other information that you deem sensitive, and you can have it there. But when you're creating a password, it's just thinking all the things you can combine and put in there, and think. Troy just mentioned the word brute force. So for those that don't know, brute force is, those little log pads you buy when you go traveling, and they got the 3 combinations, right? So you go from 0 to 9, and you choose your number, and the thing opens. So brute force is me coming into your padlock and try every combination until it goes, right? And it doesn't take that long. In fact, I went to stayed in Sydney once. I stayed at a mate's place, and she said, "Oh, I'm going to work. The key is on the lock thing." And I said, "Yeah, okay." She said, "You know the code. I'll be in a meeting. I get there, I forgot the code." She's in a meeting, and I'm locked out of the house, so I brute forced it. It was only 3 numbers. It took me about an hour and 15, and then I found 3-digit and then open up and So your password can be brute force by a computer, which has got an algorithm and it works a million calculations per second, and off it goes. So if your password is Mango's 101, the brute force attack first tries all known words in the dictionary on many languages, and that's a pretty quick operation. It's called a dictionary attack. And if your password contains words, it will find it there, and then it completes with numbers and completes the combinations. And this is where the brute force is. So the more digits, capitals, non-capitals, all you're doing is adding combinations to your password, So then it becomes years or trillions of years before any computer can actually get to it. And that's sort of the game you try to play, that game of numbers.
I wouldn't think passwords anymore. I would think passphrases.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And Alana, how many do we have on average? I know you've got that stat.
What do you mean?
How many passphrases or passwords applications do we individuals hold on average?
Not too many. They hold a pattern, right? So typically they just repeat the pattern. So they might have 17 passwords, but there's a pattern.
Yeah.
And so they're kind of useless.
Yeah, I think it's actually changed since the last time I heard you speak, because you said we have about 150 apps on our phone.
Oh, apps, but $100 says you have the same password in all of them.
Who here has a password with a capital letter at the front of it and a number at the end of it, and it's 7 digits long?
That's what it is.
So, like, hackers know this. Hackers know the general form. So, we're making it really easy for them.
And keep your hands up if those numbers are 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah. So the comment I make, think passphrases, not passwords. The longer we make it, the harder it is for them to hack.
So what's a passphrase, Troy?
I like oysters.
Do you?
And instead of the I, change a 1, put an exclamation. Like, the longer you can make it, you whack things in there, capital letters, etc. It becomes difficult.
Yeah.
And you can use what we call it padding. So if you grab I like oysters and then you pad it on both sides, say with numbers. So you go 661, I like oysters 116. That would be easy to remember for you. And you now added an extra 6 digits that are different, and you're padding your password. So then you can put the padding in the middle. So instead of using a space, you can use a padding of 4 numbers that you always know in every space of your passphrase. So then, yes, to the eye, it looks, oh, how do you remember that? Well, it is a passphrase that you connect with. But to the algorithm, now it looks like this, and it just, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I use 3. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's
and
right.
I use 3 symbols that don't exist in the English language. I use 3 symbols that don't exist in the English language.
3 symbols?
Yeah, from other languages. It's not in the English language. It really screws the computer up. Yeah. So the funniest passphrase I ever was like, I want to kick a yellow donkey in the butt 77 times, exclamation point, and then it was like the same thing in French. So then he put,
But get out of the habit. So who here uses the same password for internet banking, Netflix, etc.?
Everybody does, because it's a pain in the butt to remember something else.
Think about this. Like, if you lose your keys and you've got one key for your car, your house, etc., then it's very easy for them. So you need different keys for different applications.
Okay, so for the sake of time, we are all hanging around for a little bit longer after this, and you can ask questions. But just in the last couple of moments, does anyone have any burning questions that they'd like to ask right now to any of our panellists?
Do you know how to look up if your email's been compromised, your password? So the head of Microsoft Security moved to Byron Bay about a decade ago. Super awesome guy. And he set up a site where he just scans the darknet all day, all night, everything, and it's called I've Been Pwned. So if you literally just Google, I have been pwned, so P-O-W-N-E-D, it's so popular globally that it'll pick it up even if you can't remember the phrase. You type your email into it, and it'll just tell you, yep, it appears on 72 lists on the darknet. You know, your password's done. Your account's compromised. You can go home tonight and look it up, and you'll be shocked.
And just one more thing, we were talking about who's responsible.
Yep.
And I just wanted to think of OHS. So in your office, OHS, who is responsible? Everybody is. If you're in the office and there's a cable there and there's a trip hazard, everybody is responsible to get that out. So this is not the boss's responsibility or the manager or the receptionist or whoever it is. It's everyone's. So if you educate your staff, they need to know if something doesn't add up, you need to report it. You need to enable them with the processes to do that, and knowing that they're not going to get crucified for it. And that's it, because it's what did you call it? Cyber hygiene. It's everyone's responsibility to make sure the whole environment is safe. Because guess what? If there's no company, there's no employees, so no one gets paid. So it is everyone's responsibility to keep an eye open, make sure they're using the right passwords, make sure they're not paying the wrong accounts, make sure when they pick up the phone, this doesn't sound right, let me just report it and talk to someone and let it know that that is okay. So that's what I wanted to add.
No, that's great. And yeah, go for it.
Just a quick question to Alana. Thank you. I'm probably afraid of this answer, but Alana, with the how far behind are the police of this industry to what's all happening on the coalface? So what you're experiencing is we've got rules that we've got to drive on the left-hand side of the road. We've got rules.
Where's that recording going?
Okay, we can cut that recording right now. What's happening in your world? How far behind are they?
They have the toys. They have all the toys. Like they have actually New South Wales Police has actually pretty comparable capabilities to the FBI. I'm not exaggerating because I've helped develop a couple. But whether or not they like, the volume of cybercrime is almost incomprehensible. So let me explain this to you in a way you might remember. 1/3 of the economy from certain countries comes from cybercrime. 1/3 of the economy. Like, it's at a scale that's not at the level that any police could adequately deal with. It's so completely and wildly out of control. And so police are set up to deal with things within their jurisdiction. Police in Australia don't even cooperate between states. And if you don't believe me, Google Peter Foster tonight, okay? Boy, I could go all day and all night on the incompetencies of working from state police from one to the other. And that doesn't mean there aren't really good people in cybercrime. But police are set up to work jurisdictionally, and cybercrime is not a jurisdictional, like it's a global. One investigation we worked on, we were in 37 countries to find the solution, right? Because like how the communications are structured would be completely different to how the money's structured would be completely different. Like it's like it's not something that's easily done. It's not like the police from New South Wales are going to get on a plane and go over to the Philippines or Israel or to the United States, and so they have to go what's known as MLAs. It's a mutual lateral assistance, and that can take 1.5 years to get that assistance. And cybercrime is at the speed of light. So most of the policing gets done by private corporations.
And we have
I work for private corporations to do it.
Another question? Oh, just behind you.
Yeah, who should you actually report it to? I was sort of on the end of paying an invoice that had a fraudulent bank account added, so that the company's 365 account was remotely accessed, and the invoice that was forwarded to me to pay had the incorrect bank details for that company on it. Long story short, we were told not to report it to the police until the bank had confirmed that it was fraudulent, which then took 9 weeks for them to investigate it.
Yeah, so I'm actually really scared because we're going live next Friday with our center, and the CBA is sending the traffic because that's how inundated they are with basics. And so you phone your bank and your insurance company. Honestly, those are the two first spots. And if you happen to have a company that you deal with on a regular basis, like Hector's, also them, of course.
Yeah, just the insurance company then wanted to know why it wasn't reported to the police straight away.
Well, you have to do that, but you would do it all at once.
Okay.
Do you know, like you're going to be on hold with all of them, so you might as well just get 4 phones out on speaker and see who picks up first.
Thank you.
But you're just going to get a docket number with the police. You're not going to get a resolution.
Two things I'm interested in is is the bigger companies more likely to be hacked because there's right down to the micros.
Flip thinking. It's SMEs, because if you think about 5 years ago, even now, like a lot of the stuff that we heard about companies getting hacked were Sony, Target out of the US, where 40 million people's credit cards got compromised, and because in Australia up until 2018, it was mandatory to notify the government. So everything that we heard before 2018 was coming out of the US, because they've had mandatory notification where it's by law you have to notify that you've been hacked. So we were getting all these big corporations, global corporations coming out of America, and then our mindset here in Australia was, oh, it's only happening to the big guys, therefore I'm sitting in Foster, in Newcastle, back of Whoop Whoop, it's not going to happen to me. Where in reality, the big companies have teams of hundreds of people working on cybersecurity. We as SMEs, and in February 2018, the federal government brought out this scheme called the Mandatory Notifiable Data Breach Scheme, which basically said that if you're breached, you've got to notify the Privacy Commissioner. And you have to tell them what happened, how you found out about it, what you're going to do about it, and how you're going to implement. So when a client of ours gets breached, we help them notify the Commissioner, and we take care of that whole process. The best thing that's come out of that is that the Commissioner every quarter reports or generates a report around the amount of businesses that have been scammed, had ransomwares, had business email compromises, etc. So it's actually brought everything out to the surface, and it's SMEs that think that they go to JB Hi-Fi, they buy a laptop, and they get Norton antivirus. I'm good to go. Nothing's going to happen to me, when in fact it's not. And Hector's talked about placing hurdles in place, so putting the 4 deadbolts on the door, etc., etc. It's not going to make you 100% secure, because you will never be. But it's going to put hurdles in place that if I'm a hacker and I want a quick return on my investment, I'm just going to go, oh geez, this is too bloody hard. I'm just going to go to the next one.
This is the best tool I can give you is this. Imagine you live in a third world country. Imagine you have no food, it's hard to get by, and that's where you live. Now imagine you have a set of skills, which are IT skills, and now you come to me and said, I will give you a job. Come and work for me. All you have to do is get me these numbers, right? And I will pay you $100 a week. Now, in a third world country, we know that, maybe the base salary is $1.50 a month. So when I'm offering you $100 a week, you're pretty much millionaire right there. So all you have to do is give me information. If you are that person, do you really care? Do you really care if you're getting ANZ's information or my information or hers or a medium business? You don't care. Yeah. You want your $100 and you want out of there. Yeah. And that's the best logical, because I come from those part of the world, that's how it works. So when you are in need, it doesn't really matter.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
2 other quick things. What is air gapping? And is it safe to save your passwords on the phone, or where software says when you're on the computer, will I save this password sort of thing?
So air gapping is just having a backup and just disconnecting it from the network. So
3 backups. 1 your normal one disconnected from the network, and honestly, cloud is worth every penny. All 3.
So that's all air gapping is, because if you've got all your backups connected to the network, then as a hacker, I can get into all of them. Whereas if I periodically plug in, backup, unplug it, even if my system's been compromised and I've got a hacker in it, I've still got something over here that hasn't been compromised. So if I get a ransomware or I need to restore from backup, you can say, oh, I'm not paying your ransom. You can get stuff, pull the plug out of the wall, get someone like Hector to come in, sort the system out, restore the backups, and away you go.
And even if you have 1 computer and you have that little portable disk, yep, and you have it plugged in, that can get compromised. So if now you have 2 disks and you're swapping, the one that is not connected and you get hit right there, that's your air gap. So then your air gap will gap as many days or hours you can support. So think if you get hit, your air gap is 3 days, 1 week, whatever your rotation cycle is, you need to decide what can you live with. Can you live with 1 week's worth of lost data? The answer might be yes, it might be no. Can you live with 1 hour? The answer might be yes, it might be no. And that answer determines what process are you going to use to then mitigate that risk.
And saving the password, when it says save your password?
Just use an app. So when you go on your phone, Apple is pretty secure with these things, but on your browser, it says you want to remember this.
Yeah.
Yes, so all it does, it stores it in a file that is within the browser folders. Nothing secret, nothing no one can get. So it's right there. So you're better off to tell the browser not to remember anything and have another password like LastPass or 1Password, which actually encrypts the communication between it and the browser. So when you go log in and say, do you want to use this password from LastPass? Yeah, because that's encrypted and it's not saved anywhere in the browser. So that's probably the best recommendation.
And is that the same with you when passwords on your phone, like it's got that wallet thing?
That tends to be pretty secure, but if you have the app will go on your devices as well. Okay. So you can check from all of them.
Not secure on a Samsung, and a lot of Androids don't patch.
Right. They don't patch, yeah.
Okay.
What I will do, because of the time, is we'll just leave it there for Q&As, but I definitely encourage the conversation to go further. And of course, if you don't get a chance to speak to any of our panellists tonight, come and see myself, Mike, Steve, Georgia, or Kristen, one of the team. Come and ask us, we'll write it down and we'll get the answer back. And we'll probably send it out in a group email, because I'm sure if one person's got the question, most of you will. But I would like to just leave on a couple of key points each. What could our small businesses, medium-sized businesses, do today to ensure that they can protect themselves tomorrow?
Multi-factor authentication. Sorry, I probably stole that off you.
No.
Multi-factor authentication and backups. But test your backups and make sure they work.
How do we do that? Now we're going on further. But I guess, how do we do that? And is there support? Because this is an extra cost for small to medium businesses.
Yeah, but the cost is minimal.
But it all adds up.
The impact is huge. Like you could lose your business.
Yeah.
So a bit of time, a lot of this stuff's free. Like you can put multi-factor authentication on yourself. Just invest a couple of hours. Putting backups in place and testing them, you go, okay, every week. I don't know, put a diary item in your diary. So every Friday at 11 o'clock before you go on a long lunch or something like that, go and test that it's working. The amount of times that we've paid a ransom because we go in there and the client goes, oh yeah, we have backups. Oh, okay, how often do you back up? Well, once a month. Go in there and it's been 3 or 4 months, 6 months. And go, okay, well, do we have to pay the ransom? Yeah, because I can't lose 6 months worth of work. This stuff's simple. It doesn't cost a fortune.
But it's time sometimes.
Yeah.
But it can be scary. So it's simple for us, and we deal with this as a front line.
Oh, it makes me want to throw my computer out the window.
No. So it is scary. Yeah. So if not, exactly. And I was about to say, yeah. No, you don't. You call me, and that's when you say, Hector, can you come and sort this for me? Yeah, and this is what we do. You know what I mean?
That's why.
That's why, isn't it?
It's true, and I'm not being disrespectful about that, but every computer guy out there that we know today is flat strapped. And if I need you now...
And half of them aren't trained in cybersecurity.
That's probably true as well.
Also danger.
If I need him now, I won't probably get him till next Thursday.
Yeah.
But that's not good enough. You know, like, the way the world is today...
That's better than not doing it.
Now. Everyone wants it now. And us as business people, we've got to beg to everyone's whim and give it to them now, otherwise they go elsewhere. And then we're out of business. So that's the hardest part for us as businesses, is trying to make everyone else happy except for ourselves. That's where it all comes.
There's a couple of free services. So Charles Sturt University also won $1 million, and their service is that they will take a digital footprint of your business and then tell you where all the parts are that aren't air gapped. They'll tell you where the risks, they'll do the vulnerability scans, and they'll give you a printout, okay? And so then you can actually itemize and go around to providers to get it costed to see what you need to do. That's for free.
Is this something that the
Yeah, I was.
send out to everyone?
Yes, we can certainly do that. I will chat to Alana and
And
get
to
a
the
list of
best that
things.
my students are going to be able to do it, they're in their final year of cybersecurity. You can't sue them afterwards because they're going to do their best, right? But they'll walk you through things on the phone.
Definitely
To
would
the
vouch
best
for
that they
Alana's.
can, okay? So like if you're, having a problem, they'll give it a go and it's free, okay? So we do recognize that not everybody can afford services all the time. But probably after you deal with Charles Sturt and my thing, you'll probably realize it's probably worth the money to actually pay someone to come in and do it properly.
I have clients that balk at paying for anything, right? I think a lot of small businesses are like that. So I need something I can encapsulate really quickly, a checklist or something that really changes their priority from, I've got to get more customers in the door, to I really should think about cybersecurity, because you're right, that no one wants to pay for something they don't see the value in. And if we need to, as an accountant, I can sell that to them if I know where the value is. And I think that's important to get it out to those people who small business people go to.
So to jump in there, the Business Centre, we do offer the service where you can book an advisory session, which is subsidised if you're a Business Connect client. If you're not, you can call us and we can certainly help you out with that. You can have an advisory one-on-one session with myself. And I basically will go through a data response plan with you, have a look at what your assets are, what's the governance, etc. It's very basic entry level understanding. And then at the end of it, what I do is I provide you with, I do another hour of research after that, and then I provide you with some actionable steps for a start, and also a lot of links. The Charles Sturt one I didn't know about, so I need that. And the other one I will be putting on will be the WCACE on there as well, because I'm eagerly wanting that. But it's something where it's a sort of a starting point, and we can connect you out to the people, which includes everyone here.
Yeah, and if you connect to the app when it eventually goes functional and the website, it'll send out a tip once a month. And that tip will actually put some videos and stuff in there. Okay, and it'll be like, hey, you've got time, you just might want to do this tonight.
It's the ability to put people in touch with
Well,
people that know.
I guess
Not to know it all, but to put them in touch with people.
that's, you're right. And the other thing is, the conversation is, it won't happen to me. I don't need to talk about it. Small businesses don't have time necessarily, but we need to learn to make time to do that, and really see this as a real threat, because it can make or break you in a matter of moments. And after speaking to everyone, let's not be scared about it. Let's be aware of it and be like, okay, cool, we have car insurance. Hector's got a great analogy on it. You can ask him later. But, let's just be aware of it. Know the risks that are around. Reach out to us. We can give you a hand. We can provide you and put you in great, safe hands. And you can go from there. But there's some very, very basic steps you can do. So come and chat to us after this. But I definitely do want to wrap up. So, Alana.
ASD Essential 8. So we've talked about backup and MFA. There's 8 things. 8. If you accomplish that before Christmas, you're good. Okay? I'm not saying go home tonight and do it. But between now and Christmas, 8. They're called essential because they're actually super essential. The other 37 are a bit more optional. But there's 8. They really are essential, and they're called essential for a reason. If you literally Google Essential 8 cybersecurity, they come up. And like I said, the government has invested a lot of money to help you with this.
Yeah. And it's knowing where to look. Like we know it. We know where to go.
ASD Essential 8.
Yep. We'll let you know later. Hector, key takeaways.
Look, just have a conversation with your staff. Train your people. Remember their HNS. Do your checklist, and just sit down and go, have I got this? Have I got this? Have I got this essential? Yes, no, yes, it's better that you call me and book me and I'm here next Thursday, that you don't call and book me. So at least I'm booked and I'll come next Thursday and we'll do it. But thinking, always busy, no one's got time, don't. So just, have that conversation, make sure everyone's aware, put your processes in place. It's just as simple as, hey, accounts, don't pay an invoice above, $10,000 to someone you don't know, and invest on your local experts, yes, I'm sitting here, but you might have your own, you might employ your own, that is fine too. Trust that knowledge, educate them, upskill them, make sure you are in contact, because we don't know what we don't know. I don't go there and try to be a doctor. I'm not. When I'm not feeling well, I go to the doctor and I ask the question, and we spoke about this. I don't know anything about cars. That's why I take my car to the mechanic, and I trust my mechanic with it. So, that's it. So go and have that conversation. And I told you some on the phone, we're not here to instigate fear. We're here to create awareness. So this, I would love this event next year to have double the people or triple the people, because that means we've done our job sitting here and creating that awareness and starting that conversation.
Wonderful. Well, I would also like to not only thank you all, but for making this happen tonight, everyone being here. We've got Fortronics that's travelled up to come and give us a hand as well. We've got Foster Tuncurry Chamber who got behind this event to get it up and running, as well as the Beach Geek as well. So thank you to everyone who got this happening. And of course, Troy, Alana, Hector, amazing. Didn't go off the run sheet, knew I wouldn't, so it's great. I think, this conversation can go all night, obviously. I hope everyone got something out of it. If you need anything, we're here at the Business Centre. Mike, where are you? I'm sure everyone knows Mayor Mike here in the local town. Come and see him, say hi. And we have, the Business Centre has plenty of advisory services. We have new programs coming out, which you can check them out online. But anyway, that's it. I'm not going to say any more. Have an awesome night. Come and say hi. Come and have a chat. No question's a silly question. And anything we didn't cover, come see us. We'll take a note and send it out. So thank you so much, everyone, for coming. Thank you.